Hello and welcome to Mystic Visions with DrShiny. This is a monthly reading for, this one's for Taurus for the month of May. So thank you for joining, and please subscribe and like if you haven't already, and leave me some comments at the end of the video. Let me know what you thought about the reading. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. What we have for you today, Taurus, is the King of Swords, Judgment, the 10 of Wands, 9 of Pentacles or coins, 8 of Swords, King of Pentacles, 6 of Pentacles, 3 of Swords, Page of Pentacles, and 5 of Pentacles. Okay, so right off the bat, I noticed that you have a lot of coins and swords. There is a wand in there, but the wand is something that's moving away from you, or you're moving away from. So it looks as though there's probably a lot of focus on the financial situation here, a lot of thinking about that. There's a little bit less feeling or emotional depth or intuition, those type of things. So it may be that one way for you to navigate this coming month a little bit better is to find a way to balance those emotions and interactions. Although well, you know, your situation is not the coins, right? But your thoughts are coins, your future is coins, your advice, your overall message, and your fears, that's all coins. So it kind of it indicates that this is something that's very heavy with your mind, and it's probably not as necessary as you think it is for your mind to be revolving around this subject. But you know, let's see how we can navigate through that. What we have for your current situation is the King of Swords. So that represents a tendency for you to try to think your way through whatever you're going through, to be even sometimes to the extent of manipulative, or trying to figure things out, trying to be clever in the way that you get through this, instead of relying on, you know, like raw hard work or determination or having faith, or any of that. It's this mentality that you're gonna kind of organize things and get things working through mental power. And it's a King of Swords here, so you are fairly good at this. You're pretty. It's not as though this is doomed to work out poorly, or that you're gonna fail. Not at all. On the contrary, you probably can work through this with thought. But you know, again, the question is, are you becoming a little bit unbalanced in your approach? So it might work out fine this time, but where are you headed in the long run? You know, and those are questions worth asking. What we have crossing you is the Judgment card, which represents, as opposed to kind of like logically working your way through things, or thinking about it just in, you know, raw pros and cons, or whatever the particular chances are of things working out. Judgment brings in your past experience. It brings in your ability to recognize and feel a situation out. So like there's maybe an opportunity, a business opportunity. Somebody proposes something, or a joint business, a partner, something like that. But maybe you've been burned by that person before. So even though the whole thing looks great on paper and it should work out, your past experience kind of warns you not to go down that path because it didn't work out great before. So Judgment is something that requires some temperance and some. It's a very mature type of an energy. So the challenge for you is that you're going to think things are going to work out a certain way. You're going to feel like you have the intelligence to work through this, but there's going to be factors that don't translate from thought into the real world quite as well as you think they should. So be careful about that. Be on the lookout for being overly optimistic about your plans working out exactly the way you think they will. because that can be kind of a challenge for you in this time for this month. Okay, what you're moving away from is this Ten of Wands, and this, in this artwork, there's kind of like a nomad, a traveler depicted, and that's a good way of depicting this card, because what the Ten of Wands is, first of all, wands represent actions and doing, and the 10 is sort of the culmination of understanding the point of a particular element, or when I say the point, the essence of a particular element. What does it represent, or what's the core lesson? And then you progress through the court cards, which is a relative mastery of that particular element. But in the 10 of Wands, you're sort of understanding finally that there's no completion to action, right? There's always something that can be done. I think it was the Lion King said there's more to do than can ever be done. And that's true, right? You can always find some new goal, some new project to devote your time to. So what the maturation of understanding action and doing and willpower, what that involves is not completing things or not getting good at getting things done, but it is figuring out exactly how you want to allocate your resources or your effort, because there's a finite number of things that you can do with your life, and so you have to be really good at choosing what it is you're going to devote your energy to. Now, okay, this is what you're moving away from. So this is kind of in the past. You've figured this out to a degree. You're on the right track of essentially knowing what it is that you want to spend your time or your money on, or your effort. And it looks as though you're taking a turn toward some financial achievement. Now, it's very possible that this is just sort of an ends to a means to an end. In other words, you could be seeking money because it gets you to some other goal, right? But for whatever reason, you're a little bit, tunnel visioned on that particular goal, or whatever that goal is. And that's okay. But what you're headed toward, or what you're aiming at here, is the Nine of Pentacles, but it's in the reverse. So Nine of Pentacles represents, we said the progression through the elements kind of represents mastery of understanding that element. So the 9 is right before the 10, so it's a very matured energy, but with this, it's kind of a person who looks around and takes a break. She's worked really, really hard and had a lot of success, but it's now time for her to take a step back, survey everything that she's accomplished, enjoy it, right? Because what's the point of working all the time for your whole life and never enjoying any of the fruits of your labor, right? So that's not good. And you might think, well, I'm trying to do it for my children. I want my children to have a good life. But the thing is your children will learn from the way that you are, and they'll mimic your own behavior just because they love you, and that's how love works, right? So if you display for them this slavish devotion to just working away, becoming a workaholic, you're priming and teaching your children to be the same way. So better to just kind of have a happy medium, to where you're able to show them how to enjoy life, but also how to be a responsible person and to do what's necessary. But what you have in the reverse here, it's indicating that you're a little bit more of that workaholic type, or you're a little bit too focused on the getting things done. And it may be good for you to have that focus, but we all need like a mental break or a mental release. So it may just be asking you to take a little bit more time in relaxation and meditation, and not to be so hardcore focused to the point where it makes you upset about things, or gets you feeling a little frustrated, right? So what we have for your foundation is this Eight of Swords. And now the foundation represents what's going on in the subconscious, but it's also kind of like the lesson the universe is trying to teach you through this situation. And what you have is the Eight of Swords, which is a feeling of kind of being trapped, or feeling like there's only one way to go through this situation. But that's kind of all in your head, right? So what you're learning is that you can think you have things figured out, and you can think that there's really only one way to be or one way to go through this, but that's really just a thought. It's all in your head, and the universe is trying to show you that that's not necessarily the case. So you're being asked to open up and have a little bit of faith, that things can work out differently. I don't know if you're a person who follows the law of attraction, but the idea with the law of attraction is you, yes, you visualize what it is that you want to occur and all this, and then you work toward it diligently, but you give up the sort of mental clinging to it, and you allow the universe to provide it to you in unexpected ways, and that speeds the process up. So, you may be wanting to achieve a certain goal, but your ideas about how that is to be achieved might not end up being the end process that actually occurs. So you may want to work on leaving yourself a little bit open to the future and just work diligently. Think about things in more of a, instead of like actually trying to knock down your goals like you're playing whack-a-mole or something, think of your goals as things that put you in a better situation to be capable of doing the things that you want to do, right? So maybe you want a certain amount of money for a particular project. Well, don't just aim to get that particular amount of money for that project and like that's it, because that's going to leave you very stretched thin, right? So aim to be a successful person who has those resources to do what you want to do, and that's a little bit more of an effective way to steer your life. Okay, what's on your mind, or the crowning thoughts, is the King of Pentacles. So this is to say that you want to be, or you're emulating this King of Coins here. The King of Coins has a mastery of the financial realm. He's very abundant. He has all the resources that he needs to get things done, and he's able to utilize and apply those resources in very effective ways to see whatever it is that he wants done. And so, of course, this is a wonderful thing to have in your mind. It's not bad for you to be pursuing this. But again, this is, and in fact, if you are pursuing some kind of wealth, this is a good way for you to be pursuing it, which is to say, you're not exactly just pursuing a particular amount of money or happiness through your money, but you're pursuing an idea of financial stability, and having the resources and the ability to do things in the physical realm that you want to. So that's good. Now, your advice is the Six of Pentacles in the reverse. So it could be that you're a little bit too afraid of asking for help or needing other people to help you out. You might have this idea of being self-sufficient and independent, and that might be causing you a little undue stress in this situation. And it also might be that that's one of the things that you're not really counting on, that there will be help coming to you that is unexpected. And you have to open yourself up to it. You have to be receptive to that help that comes, because as it stands, you're a little bit resistant to it. So there just may be this idea that you have subconsciously that you have to work really hard for everything that you earn. And while that's a wonderful moral, it's also something that's going to keep you in suffering if you are really, truly believing that all the time. So instead, try replacing that with a thought such as, if I work hard and I'm diligent and I do what I'm supposed to do, help comes to me from unexpected places, right? So it's not that you're asking for handouts or anything like that, which might be an unpleasant thought, but it is that you're willing to accept help when it's offered, or when it's needed. And I think that you're probably a person who is willing to help others to a degree, so why not accept some help for yourself as well? It's not weakness, it's everybody requires help. You can't do anything by yourself. I mean, everything that you have learned, you've learned with the help of other people. So and so many people that came before you put in a lot of work, so you could benefit off of it. So try not to get too hung up on this idea of being like a self-made person. It's not that important. And when it comes down to it, we're all in this together. And there's a lot to be said for a community sharing of knowledge, information, and wealth. Okay, so the current environment is the Three of Swords. So, this doesn't represent you. This represents somebody either in your immediate vicinity or, coworkers or just your society in general. But when you look around you, you're seeing a little bit of heartbreak. You're seeing somebody who's been through something that's tough. They're going through an emotional time. And you may be looking for a way to solve those issues practically. But a lot of times this person just needs you to be a little more emotionally available and to listen to them. So don't get too caught up thinking that you can solve everyone's problems or these heartbreak issues. Really just kind of be there for those people. So your Fears card, you have the Page of Pentacles in the reverse. And so, the Page of Pentacles is somebody who's very optimistic. They're young and, they're on a journey for wealth. They want to become that King of Pentacles eventually, but they're not quite there yet. And things are not always working out the way that they want. They're not a master of the material yet. They're just kind of a novice. And you're afraid, I think, of essentially making foolish decisions or making mistakes, and particularly in finance. And that's a bad place to be, because basically you have to be able to make mistakes to succeed in anything. Nobody who's seriously successful, nobody who's wildly successful is afraid to make mistakes. In fact, they welcome the opportunity because you learn from it. Okay, so, and particularly in the realm of money, if you're seeking after money and you feel just tremendous pain and just complete resistance to any sort of loss because you think that detracts from your overall goal, from your end goal, then you're closing yourself off to a lot of learning opportunities, and you're not being brave, right? You're being a little bit miserly with your money, and you're not taking any risks. And if you don't take any risks, it's very unlikely that you're going to see substantial gains, right? Because pretty much in life, everything is a risk-reward proposition. So if you want to gain more, you have to risk more. So you want to be careful with that. You want to be careful with being too afraid to make mistakes or missteps and lose. It's really more about figuring out where you can afford to take risks. And if your answer is that you can't afford to take any risks, then you're thinking about the situation wrong, I promise you. So there always needs to be some element of risk-taking in your strategy, in your overall strategy or plan. And it doesn't need to be everything. I'm talking about 1 to 5% of the total thing needs to be a little bit risky, but you have to be able to incorporate some element of risk into things. Otherwise, you get stagnant very quick, and then you're not really moving anywhere or not growing. Okay, so overall message, you have that 5 of Pentacles in the reverse. And this is, again, so this is a feeling of poverty, of not having enough, but it's also being a little bit resistant to seeking out help or finding that there is more wealth and ability to achieve riches and wealth around you than you realize. So it's about kind of adjusting your attitude. And that's what's going on here. You're a little bit resistant to this. You're a little bit possibly stuck in a scarcity mindset. And so what you need to do is replace that with a more of an abundance mindset, which isn't to say, well, go spend every dime you have and all your money and waste it away. But it is to get out of the habit of thinking I don't have enough, because that reinforces some kind of bad mental problems. You still have to, of course, develop self-control, responsibility, and not go waste your money on everything. But there's a difference between doing that and constantly thinking, I don't have the money to do that. Well, you do have the money to do that. See, this is more productive, right? Instead of, maybe you want to go waste some money on a new, I don't know, car stereo or a couch or something like that. Instead of saying, I don't have the money to do that, say, I would rather save my money. You know what I mean? You can acknowledge that you want to do those things and still make the decision not to. You don't have to say, you don't have to justify the act of saving money. And by doing that, just a small little tweak like that can dramatically affect how your brain works. Because when you're talking to yourself like that, when you're saying, I don't have the money for that, your subconscious is listening. You're priming yourself to think a certain way. So you want to be able to change the narrative and fill your head with some more productive and carefully strategized ways of thinking about the situation instead of just saying something harsh on yourself like, I don't have the money for that. That's not as healthy as some other way of saying it, right? So I think that's going to be a big, that's something for you to chew on for this month, something for you to focus on. How do you monitor your internal dialogue and recognize when you're saying things that are a little detrimental? If you think about everything you think, everything you say to yourself kind of programs you. So think about that and take a good look at how you're programming yourself and program yourself to be a more successful and whole individual instead of negative self-talk and things like that. Okay, so that's about it for this month's reading for Taurus. Thank you for joining again. And please, as always, leave me some comments and let me know what you thought about the reading. And I'll see you guys next time.